All right. Shalom, shalom. I'm going to go ahead and do this again. So this is part 2 of Words Behind Words, just to demonstrate, how close that Isaiah scroll is to what we have. Okay. So let's jump right into it, man. So what you're looking at here is the Isaiah scroll. Once again, chapter 1, verse 1. Now, what's interesting about this, I can zoom in a little bit more. You can just make out what that says right there. If I click on it, the verse comes up in English. You see that? It tells you who translated it. It tells you his university, and it tells you understand. This is a beautiful tool to have. Okay. Now, you can see here the letters. You can barely make out some of the letters, right? And as you get to other portions of the scroll, you can see more clear letters. This is a digital copy of the actual scroll. I can go down to the bottom. I can change chapters. I can see this whole scroll as far as chapter 54 when it starts to get rubbed out. And if you see over here, you'll see things where, things were added in, or, maybe it rubbed off, so then they wrote over it. But it's real dope to be able to see this. So basically, the good thing about this is I can go to any chapter and match this up with what I have on my side. Okay, that's what I like about that. That's what I like about that tool. Okay, so let's move over to my other screen. These are some of the things I was trying to demonstrate before. The video quality was terrible. I understand. Okay, so look here. If you're looking at the manuscript at the same time, you will see that it matches up with this. It's difficult for me to show it in this format. I was trying to do it on OBS. Once again, too much. So right now we're looking at the Hebrew, and it reads from right to left, and this will be Yah Shai Yahweh, right? So that's Isaiah, Yashai Yahweh. So, and you can see, look, Yod Hey Wav Hey, or Yod Hey Wav Dalit Hey. So I'm still kind of learning a little bit of this. But the beauty behind this is that, like I said, you can go match this up for what you see with your own eyes in the app. Okay? Now let's stop that. Now this is what I want to show you. This is what I want to show you right here. Okay? So I'm not sure what you can see. Not sure what you can see, but what I'm looking at is the actual Paleo Hebrew letters. And so it's a lot of work. Now, if you want to write your own prayers, you want to, spell your name in Hebrew, whatever you want to do, you're going to need to go to the source that you're using to find the word in Hebrew. Let's say that you found it on Bible Hub. The thunder going off in the background. The thunder is going off. But what you're going to want to do is, I'm going to show you. Okay. So let's just say that I want my name to be Isaiah. I'm going to show you the Bible Hub. I love using Bible Hub. Bible Hub is my favorite. I really don't get down with Blue Letter Bible, but it's not like it's a bad, it's not like it's a bad source. I just don't personally use it. Well, let's look. So right here, you see division. That same word we saw in the scroll, the same word we saw on the app. okay, of Isaiah. You see that? And this is the word Isaiah in Hebrew. So what I would do is I would take those letters and I would convert them to the Paleo using that chart that I just pulled up. You can find that chart on Google. You can find that chart in many different places. And I would do the same thing with the prayer. So let's do a prayer real quick. We're going to go to Psalms 43. Okay. So you'll see it here where it says, "Vindicate me, God, and plead my cause against a nation that's not godly." That's all I wanted to use when I did my prayer. Now, the beautiful thing about prayers is I can literally take that exact line and mix and match it with other lines that I found to be useful. So I remember this line, I put it with that line. And then I got a beautiful little prayer that I took right out the scriptures. I know the Most High dealing with it because I'm speaking the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? Um, so what I did was, once again, the Hebrew did not originally have the vowel points. So if you look, you got a Hebrew letter, Hebrew letter, Hebrew letter, Hebrew letter, and then you got symbols under it. Those symbols under it represent what they call the Masoretic vowel pointings. Okay, the the modern day Jewish people, they call it Nikud. Okay, so just a little piece of information there for that. They call it Nikud. But this is your vowel pointings. You can study those too, because once again, I'm not all the way under the belief system that the fake Jews came up with those vowels, but since there's a possibility of, you know what I'm saying, somebody tampering with the text, I'd rather just lean on the consonants alone and leave the vowels alone. But when you get into like the Masoretic text, you know, the Masoretes, the reason that there's a Masoretic text is because they are the guys who added the vowel points. So when you go in and look at those ancient manuscripts, the Masoretic text, you're gonna see there's a lot of vowel pointings. Oh man, I gotta learn how to read these in order to understand what's going down. So this is the reason that we gotta dig deeper and get into the scholarship. You start messing with people like Voclown McNuts and uh, James White and Dr. Michael Brown and some of these people, they've dug into the Hebrew. And they, many of them actually teach Hebrew. Vocab don't. But James White, Michael Brown, some of these other guys, they actually teach Hebrew. So you're not going to get over on them using some halfway scholarship. You have to go into the word. You have to understand the origin of the word. And sometimes they're going to take you as far as saying, oh, well, but that only shows up in 2 manuscripts. So now you're in trouble. So if you want to get into the game with the big dogs, right? I call them big dogs because they big in their world, but not necessarily in our eyes, right? But if you want to get into the game, you're going to have to be trained up, okay? So let's look at this, man. Let's make a prayer out of this. Let's make a prayer out of this. Let me stop the share again. I'm going to come back. This is what I do, man. I like to do this. I like to dig in, go a little bit deeper than the last man. That way I can pass something down that helps forward, you know what I'm saying? It helps forward our studies and our efforts here in this truth. So let's look at it. So every time you see this letter, that's the Aleph. These are the more modern day Hebrew letters. Okay. So once you see this in a manuscript, you could translate that over to one of these, right? You see that, you can translate it to this, so forth and so on. And these are what you call your Paleo. Now, this is what you call your proto or your early Hebrew or your pictograph. right? Your pictographic Hebrew, which would be more like hieroglyphs. And so they're pictures. Each one of these are pictures. And the pictures themselves represent something, right? And so that's what this column is telling you. The picture column is telling you that what it represents. The meaning column is telling you what it means. The sound column is telling you how it sounds. You'll also see that Greek and Latin were both influenced by the Hebrew culture. Why? Because we're the salt of the earth. If you look at it, if you listen to the alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Well, first of all, Aleph, Bet, alphabet. It's the exact same thing. The Greeks got their structure from the Hebrew language system. So they said Aleph, Bet, just the same way that we did, okay? But they say Delta instead of Dalet. They say Delta. So you can see, right? You see where we got our Zayin? Our Zayin is right here. They put their Z right there. Come on. We put our Het right after that. They put their H right after that. We put our Tet right after that. They put their Tav or their Theta right after that. You see that? So once again, you can't get around it that the Hebrew not only predates the ancient uh, uh, Edomite languages, but it actually influenced the ancient Edomite languages, which goes to show you that's another way of this is another way that scientists archaeologically can link a people group, right? We can link Edom to the Greeks and the Latin peoples right here because their language is linked to our language. Why is that? Because you used to speak our language because you came from Father Jacob or you came Salakia. You came from Father Isaac, and therefore you spoke our language. But then you broke off, did your own thing. You understand? That's why Greek and Latin can have that connection. These are scholarly things that we got to be able to bring to the table. When people want to say, "Oh, well, how can you prove that the white man? How can you prove that Esau is the white man and all that stuff?" You go into the migration patterns of a people group and you go into uh language and you go into cultural um markers that prove where they were, then now you can make a case and they can't really get away from that because this is proof that the Greek language and the Latin language, which are both younger than Hebrew, were influenced by Hebrew. All right, so that's enough on that. That's enough on that. So what I'm gonna do for the next section of this video is I'm gonna show you how to write a prayer. I kind of went into it, just showing you that what you want to do is you want to take one of these Hebrew words, right, like Isaiah, or for me, I took this whole section right here, all the way up until godly, and it's really ungodly because it says lo hasayat. So what I did was I took that whole section, I translated each Hebrew letter from the modern Hebrew back into the Paleo Hebrew using my chart. Then I transliterated it so that now I can speak it in Paleo Hebrew. Okay. And then I just practice the pronunciations. And the more you do this, the more words you will learn because the Hebrew Bible uses the same words, just like the English language uses the same words. You can get fancy if you want to and learn the deeper, the bigger words and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, just being able to have a conversation with somebody in a different language is awesome. Like you don't have to go and learn all the deep words and all that stuff. All of that's cool, but having a functional language to speak, okay? Um, and that's gonna be it for that portion. I do want to say this is very important for our culture, right? That we reclaim our heritage. How can you reclaim your heritage while you still wearing the same clothes that your oppressors gave you, while you still speaking the same language that your oppressors gave you, and while you still celebrating the same feast days that your oppressors gave you? Like I said, the thunder is going off back here. So Let's get rid of the clothes. Let's get rid of the language. Let's return back to our roots. Get rid of the way that they told you to pray. Let's go back to our roots. And let's do this thing properly, man, so that when we get into the wilderness, the Most High is actually dealing with us, and we doing it in spirit and in truth. Shalom.